Hi. So today we will be discussing mainly how to debug a TypeScript application. So it's a little bit tricky to debug TypeScript application because the TypeScript is actually not a language. It helps the developer to write more into an object oriented, and then the library actually converts this TypeScript into a JS or the JavaScript file, which is then deployed to our web application or say React or Angular application. So it can be either backend or front end, but it's actually the JavaScript which runs, not the TypeScript. So TypeScript helps or gives some constraints to the developer to use some strict rules, to abide by some rules. So let's check and get our hands dirty to how to debug a TypeScript. So here I have opened a folder. So I have named it as tsdebug. I will just create a server.ts file. So the extension will always be ts, and also for ts file configuration we need ts config.json. Here we have like some bunch of common things which we need to use as a compiler option, like which libraries we want to use, what are the target ECMAScript 5 libraries, ECMAScript 16, like we want to do the source mapping or not. So if we want to debug, we need to have the source mapping. What this source mapping will do is like it will, when we run ts, suppose we run tsc then server.ts. So what it did is like it converted the server.ts to server.js file. Okay, so when we debug, the source mapping is necessary because it will map this server, because we will be debugging this server.ts, not .server.js, and our directory is where this server.js should be, or where all the JavaScript files will be put. Let me just write something. Message of type string. So in TypeScript it's mandatory to define like whether it is of type string or number, and we'll give hello. In the console we'll just print out hello world. So we can simply run, oh shit, oh my bad, tsc and then server.ts. So it's done. So you can see that it's got converted to JavaScript file. And next what we need to do is like we need to run this server.js file, and you can see the function runs automatically. So in case of debugging, what you need to do is like we just need to go to the debugging option, run and debug, create a launch.json file. So it will give us a basic JSON file. So it looks into server.ts. If you see this is not matching with your application start file or the entry point, this is my entry point. So this should be same as this program workspace folder / server.ts. Okay, then you just go to the debugging option and click run, and still running. Oh, now it got printed. So I will show you one more thing. So if you are using like git bash or PowerShell, so you may get some error while running this launch program. So if I run it again, so now we had this git bash, and if we run it, we'll get some error. So like it took me nearly half an hour to overcome this problem. So just an heads up, so don't use git bash while debugging it, just change it to command prompt. Okay, so if you go to now server.ts and put a debugging option here and just run it. So depending on how you want to compile it, so it will take some time to start the debugger. So till now we can see this, the hello world is not being printed, and here we can see all the variables has been populated, like message equals to hello, and from here we can just change hello to world. Also we can watch some variables like messages, so we can see what is the value being populated. Also what is going on behind the scene will be displayed here, call stacks. So if we release it, we can see hello to world has been printed. So let's make it little bit complicated. So TypeScript is not like plain functions. Here we have classes, and then inside classes we have export functions and all this. So I'll make it little bit tricky so that you should not face any issue while writing any Express.js or any native React Native codes. So I'll create a class addition, and inside that I will define a function sum, which takes two parameters, x, which is of type number, and y, which is again of type number. If you want to format the code, just in Windows you need to press Alt Shift F, the code will get formatted. Let z equals to x plus y, return z. So like any other object oriented programming, we need to create the object of addition first. Let addition equals to new addition. So we can have even constructors also here, and I will just print the summation. And print out summation. If I put a debugging here and remove this debugger, so either we can remove the debugger from here by clicking it or from here. This represents the line number 2 and 7. So you just save it, run the debugger, you just put it here. So you can see that x and y is being populated here, and we still didn't get the value of z. So once we go to the next line, we can see the value of z is populated, it's 7. Just if we go to debugging option, hello world is already printed. If we release it, so 7 is printed. Now I'll make it little bit complicated by importing another function or another method from a different file, because in general use case scenario we will have multiple files and we need to access all the files from another file. So I will have another TypeScript file, calculate.ts, and here I will define a class calculator, and I will define a function multiply, which takes two parameters, a, which is of type number, and b, which is of type, suppose we define it as a string. Let's see what can go wrong. Then we had return Either we can define it C and define a variable here. So let's see equals to a multiply B formatted semicolon, and what we need to do is like, so here we can see that it is showing type error. Okay, suppose we are exporting it. So in order to export this function, we need to export the whole class or make the whole class public. Save it. Here we need to import it. Import calculator form calculate. Okay, you can change it to calculator. Sorry, my bad. Okay, next we need to create a calculator object. And suppose we are storing the multiplication result in multiplication, which is cal.multiply, and we are sending suppose 2,7. So here also you can see that what is the error message. The argument type is not assignable to parameter of type string. So what we need to do is go to calculate.ts and change b to type number. The issue is fixed here. The issue is resolved. Console.log multiplication. Let me rerun it. So you can see the breakpoint is being hit. We'll release it because we have already tested how it works. So we'll put a debugging option here. Just release the console. So you can see that the debugging point got hit at line number 4. But if we go here and release it, we can see that value of multiplication of 2 and 7 is 14. Okay, now we'll make a little bit complicated by adding a promise function. So it can be either promise, async await, or callback functions. So I'll define a function, my awesome function, and it's of type async, and it returns promise. So it's like a set timeout. So I'll wait here for 3 seconds and then I'll resolve it. And the resolve message I'll just print done, and it will be done after 3000 seconds, means 3 seconds. So this is an asynchronous function, means when I will execute this function, the lines or the flow will not stop at line number 12 or line number 13. It will keep on flowing. But suppose I want to do something with that response from my awesome function, so for that I need to wait, and this can be done using async await or by like promise method. So in my case, what I will do is like addition dot my awesome function, I will just store this in result. Let result equals to my awesome function, and result dot then. So why it is then? Because this asynchronous function is returning a promise, and promise either resolves, which is then, or rejects, which is catch. So then res, just console out the response. So what is the response? The response is done method, but I am not done yet. Let's start the debugger. We'll wait here, we'll remove this, we'll again wait here, we'll remove this, okay, and we'll look for what's being printed in debugging console. So hello world 714 being printed. It's waiting for 3 seconds. So you can see 1, 2, 3 done, and now we are in the done block. So you can see response is, or the rest is done, and if we release it, done is printed. And once we go to our directory folder, here we can see all the maps. So here in tsconfig.json we have marked our output directory as out. So inside out we had all the source mapping for like calculate.ts, it will map to calculate.js.map, and then it will map to, so you can see here the file is calculate.js and it will map to calculate.js. So for debugging, each and every component will be mapped to its particular or to its original and the TS file. That's all for this tutorial. In our next tutorial, we will see how to debug a Mocha and Chai. So Mocha is a test runner and Chai is an assertion library. So all these you can use using Jest also. See you until then, and don't forget to subscribe.